You can see the vice presidential debate tonight on CBS 3 at 9 o'clock. CBS News contributor Bob Schieffer will be watching along with all of us. He joins us now live from Farmville, Virginia, to talk more about this debate. Bob, thanks for being with us. We saw last week with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump fireworks. They were very combative. What are you expecting tonight?
I think the safest bet on the board is that tonight's discussion will be more substantive than what we saw when the two presidential candidates met, which frankly, I thought that thing was kind of beneath the dignity of the office of the presidency. I think we'll probably see something a little better tonight. I do think there will be fireworks. I expect Tim Kaine to call out Donald Trump on some of the things that we've come to know about this week, including did he or didn't he pay any income tax for the last 15 or 18 years. I think then it will be Mike Pence's job to respond to that. My inside sources tell me that if Pence won't dwell on that, he'll try to turn the discussion back to Hillary Clinton. So we may hear more about Hillary Clinton from Mike Pence and more about Trump from Tim Kaine than we will hear from their respective running mates.
And to that end, how much of tonight is about defending the top of the ticket versus these two men actually talking about themselves and what they're bringing to the table?
You know, I think it's mostly about the top of the ticket. The assignment of the vice presidential candidates in debates and throughout the campaign is, number one, do not make a mistake. Don't make a blooper. Don't step in it. That's their first assignment. If they are able to do that, then they'll get an A from their running mates. The second thing is to try to explain the people who are at the top of the ticket, why each of these people is more qualified in their mind to assume the awesome responsibilities of the presidency. But American presidential races are about the people at the top of the ticket. They're not about the number twos. In fact, through modern history, you have to go all the way back to 1960 when a vice president really made a difference. That was the year that LBJ was on the ticket with Jack Kennedy. No question Kennedy would not have been elected if he had not carried Texas, and he would not have carried Texas without LBJ. Most of the time, the vice presidential candidates don't really figure in it.
All right, well, we will all be watching tonight. Bob, thanks so much for joining us. Always nice to have you on.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
All right.